Okay, welcome. First ever workshop, Your Body Knows Something. I'm super excited to get this conversation started. I will tell you, we're going to cover just like the tip of the iceberg tonight, but I do have some time baked in at the end for questions. Anita, I'm sure you're going to have questions. Jess, you may as well. So, this body of work came about because I have just been consuming things left, right, and center that I started to notice as patterning. And so, we'll get into some of what that looks like. My first question is: have you ever said to yourself, why does this keep happening? Why am I still carrying this? I've done so much work. Why do I just still feel stuck? I'm seeing hands already. That's perfect. The question then becomes, what if your body isn't working against you? What if it's actually inviting you into your next season of growth? Background on my story: I have done so many modalities of work over the years, from mindset to yoga, different kinds of yoga, human design, which I know many of you are familiar with. I started to do fascia work about 10 years ago, and I started to notice some intricacies between fascia and emotion. And at the time, everybody told me that I was crazy. And my intuition said, you can say whatever you want, but I know what I'm feeling. Over the years, that has kind of drifted into work with the Chinese meridians. I've done some acupuncture and Chinese medicine, and I just started to notice again these patterns, this overlap, which led me to deep dive down rabbit holes and just start connecting all of the dots. At the end of the day, what I know to be true is that my body was speaking in a language that at the time I just did not understand. We are taught that our bodies are a problem to solve. And before I go any further, I want to be really, really clear. I'm not saying that any of those things are wrong. Sometimes we absolutely need medical care. Sometimes we need physical therapy. Sometimes we need emotional therapy. Sometimes we need rest. Sometimes we need medication. This isn't to replace any of that. It is about recognizing that there might be another question that maybe we just have not been taught to ask. And because while we're really good at asking, how do I make this go away? We haven't really thought to ask the question, what is my body actually trying to tell me? Or even in a more simple version than that, is my body trying to contribute something to the bigger conversation? We were taught to just manage our bodies. We were not taught to have a relationship with them. In so many different ways, your body is not asking you to fix it, it's actually asking for understanding. So, learning to recognize different patterns in your body actually is that very specific invitation that your body is giving you in the invitation to grow. So, I'm going to give you a handful of examples. The first one is shoulders. People will say, my shoulders are really tight. How do I release it? You might start rubbing on them. You might ask somebody to help you rub on them. You might go get a massage. You might do different things, different stretches. The question is not, how do I release it? The question is, why does it keep returning time and time again? Similar with hips. I found so many women actually have stuck hips, which is a whole nother thing that we'll get into. So then the question becomes, is it this stretch? Is it that stretch? Is it a particular yoga pose? But again, it all goes back to, what is the pattern that's being revealed? Most people think that the body works very simply. It's one big piece, right? The reality of it is it's actually tons of tiny intricate pieces that are all working together. So as an example, if you pull the string off of the bottom of a sweater, the whole sweater starts to unravel. Your body is really, really similar. All of the fascia is extremely connected. If you think about like the shirt you're wearing, if you start to twist that shirt into a spiral, right, you can feel it pulling up from the bottom. You can feel it pulling in from the side, down from the top. That's actually what's happening inside of your body as well. The reason why this matters is because isolation is just a fallacy that we've been taught. The reality is there's a domino effect that's happening because your body is on a constant feedback loop. Stress impacts that loop. Movement patterns impact that loop. Your emotions impact that loop. Your posture impacts that loop. Environment and your nervous system. All of these things are just one drop in the bucket. And what you might be seeing isn't that initial drop, but actually the ripples that are hitting on the outside. This is where the meridians come in. So the meridian system is not a map of organs, it's actually a map of the patterns. So thousands of years ago, Chinese practitioners started to notice that certain experiences, they were tending to show up together. And so they started following the clues generation after generation. And over thousands of years, what they found is that those observations became what we now know as the meridians that show up in traditional Chinese medicine. So when you think of meridians, you may think of them as an energy pathway. You might think of them as a communication pathway. You may think of them as a pathway of your fascia. They are really just a recurring pattern. How you think about it doesn't matter as much for today. What really matters is that they offer a different lens of understanding for your body. So I'm going to give you a handful of examples of how those meridians show up. The first one is your stomach and your spleen meridian. So these two actually work in tandem and they're part of your greater digestive system. Okay, so they're not just digesting food. This system is intended to digest information, emotions, experiences, your environment. So when you think about laying awake at night or trying to fall asleep and your brain is still running because you're trying desperately to digest the day, that is taxing your stomach and spleen meridian. They work on almost like an electrical circuit, if you will. The conversations that replay, thinking, I don't know if you ever wake up in the middle of the night thinking about, oh, I have to do this one thing tomorrow, or I need to make sure I put this thing on my to-do list. It's literally your body trying to digest additional things. As women, I don't know about you all, but I find myself carrying everybody else's crud, trying to figure out, did so and so get ready for football practice? Do they have their water bottle? Do they have their pads? Did they lock them in their locker at school that they can no longer get into? Is the little dude ready for his day tomorrow? Are his swim trunks washed? All of the things, trying to digest not even just my own things anymore, but everybody else's stuff as well. This is where the pattern starts to show up with the stomach and the spleen meridian. It's associated with digesting life. So emotions that show up in this loop are going to be things like overthinking, worry. It shows up as tension on the front side of your body. So I don't know if you've ever been so worried about something that literally your stomach hurts. That's your stomach and spleen meridian showing up live in living color. I'm going to give you another example. Your liver meridian. As an organ, your liver is your biggest detoxification organ. And so what happens is when your liver is taxed, it starts to get blocked. It's not able to detoxify all of the things that are, environmental toxins. As women, we have like excess hormones. It helps process out excess estrogen, environmental toxins, things that we eat in our food supply, right? And so if it can't detox all of these things out and it starts to back up, emotionally, what you see show up is frustration, tension, pressure, irritability, right? When you see those emotions come up, it could actually be a clue that physically your liver meridian is backed up. Now, I find that even though your liver detoxes actual physical things, it also detoxifies emotional things that show up in your body. So if you have excess emotions that you're not getting out of your body, that can also back up your liver, which leads to kind of like when you like quick pop off at your kids or you quick pop off at your partner, your liver system is running hot trying to compensate for that. It's not random, it's patterned. So I'm going to give you another example here. So if you imagine driving down the road and the warning light comes on your car, hopefully you don't get mad at your dashboard. You don't assume that the dashboard is broken. You don't cover up the light with a piece of tape, although I'm sure some people do that, right? You just recognize it as the light is contributing to something that needs your attention, something that needs to come into the conversation. The dashboard was never the problem. The warning light isn't the problem. It's not your engine. It's what do you need to do next? So the same thing when you look at your body. How do you treat your body differently when the tension shows up, when the fatigue shows up, when the stress shows up, when the pain shows up? Instead of immediately jumping to how do I make this go away, we instead look to curiosity. And the interesting part is sometimes stretching is exactly what your body might need. Sometimes it might need therapy. Sometimes it might actually need medication. Sometimes it might just need sleep. My mentor, Melanie Ann, would say sometimes you just need a poop. And sometimes that can solve all of the world's problems. None of those things are the wrong solution. The problem isn't actually in the intervention, it's intervening before you get to the curiosity. I had a really tangible example queued up for you, but I'm actually going to share a really different example. And let me just give me 1 second. I've got some people who are trying to get in, and I think they might be stuck. I can't get in. I'll go ahead and send her the replay. Okay. So I had this example queued up, and then something happened earlier today. So close your eyes for just a second. I'm going to walk you through what happened, and I want you to live this out as if you were experiencing what I experienced. I was coming back from Target doing a pickup order with little dude in the back seat going buck wild. And here in Tennessee, the roads are really windy. There's a lot of back roads to get to anywhere, a lot of hills, and on either side of the road, sometimes there's really steep embankments. Okay. When you come up over the hill, you don't always have real clear line of sight, but there's not always a lot of people on the road. So I'm coming back, rushing to get back for tonight. And as I came up over the hill, a blind hill, there was literally somebody coming 50 miles an hour in my lane directly for me. I had just enough time to get up and over the hill and slam on the brakes before I almost got hit by a vehicle. That vehicle was followed by another vehicle, was followed by a string of vehicles because on the other lane, on the opposite side that I was driving, a car had one car accident, rolled himself off the embankment upside down in an embankment so steep you could barely see the bottom wheels of the tire. There was a paramedic facing one way, there was a sheriff facing the other way. Nobody was directing traffic. And so this entire opposite side of the road was all coming straight for me. I barely had enough time for my mind to catch up what was going on when a diesel truck towing a trailer came through the in between me and the ambulance so tight he almost hit the front of my car again with my 3-year-old in the back seat. I can tell you what I felt in my body. My stomach hurt. My blood pressure was high. My heart was racing. I felt kind of clammy. My mouth went dry. And my low back started to ache a little bit. Did any of those things come through for you? That's your body speaking to you. Multiple circuits are firing. Multiple fascia chains are firing. All the sensors that you have in your body are all working. Now, this is just an isolated incident. A couple minutes pass, we drive away, it's no problem. This is a small incident in the grand scheme of life, but the bigger rocks in your own story, those are the ones that get stuck. That get stuck in the meridians, that get stuck in your fascia, that end up showing it as those repeating patterns over and over again. The example that I have for you here, when I was 12, I went to the emergency room. My stomach hurt really bad. It had been hurting for a really, really long time. The doctor took one look at me as a 12-year-old preteen and said, "You must have an eating disorder." I said, "No, I like to eat a lot. That's not a problem." He proceeded to give me an enema in the middle of the emergency room because he was certain that that was the problem. When that didn't solve it, they sent me for outpatient to do barium testing. We have to go every 30 minutes and drink this chalky, yucky stuff and then get x-rays. They found nothing, found absolutely nothing wrong. So now I'm 2 pretty big doctor's appointment visits in. You can about imagine how my mom was losing her marbles, right, at the cost of all of this stuff for them to find nothing. And so they said, IBS, that's your diagnosis. There's no treatment. Everything stayed the same. Years later, it showed up again as being super reactive to different food I couldn't eat without my whole system freaking out. More and more and more questions. This is your stomach meridian. I wasn't digesting anything. I was having such a hard time digesting what was going on in my life that my stomach was having a hard time digesting food. That's what was going on. So the question isn't what barium do you need to drink or what's going on. At least it wasn't for me. The question is, what's been going on in your life that's so hard to digest? Imagine if you could recognize these patterns and the tension and then know where to stop guessing. This is just the tip of the iceberg, but it's the reason why I put together Soul Signal. Top to bottom, 6 weeks, going through all of the patterns. Weekly curriculum, breaking down each of the meridians, talking about fascia, talking about how the electricity works in this whole situation, getting into live calls for Q&A, actual yin classes to start to restore balance to those circuits. Everything is in a school community. If you've ever heard of the school platform, it's great because there's a lot of community aspects. The curriculum is there, the live calls, everything is there in one place. And we start on July 13th. So we start in 2 weeks. And I know some of you already registered, so I'm really excited to see your faces there. What changes when you learn your body's language is you stop living from your mind. You actually start to get back into living in your body. So you move from control to a relationship. You move from resistance to a partnership, from reacting to participating in your own becoming. And that's where everything really starts. It's that trust with yourself again, with what your soul might have been trying to tell you all along. So we start on the 13th, 6 weeks long. There's 3 live coaching calls in the community and then lifetime access. So whatever works for you, if the conversation resonated with you, if you're thinking you want to learn the language, then I would love to invite you to join me in the 6 weeks of Soul Signal. So for the 6 weeks, we're going to go deeper than we could do today on a Zoom call. And then we'll explore what happens next. We're going to get into fascia. We're going to look at meridians. We're going to practice some yin together. I'm really excited about that part. I'm actually going to show you some different fascial maneuvers that are outside of yin. And we're going to work on body awareness. But more important than that is you get to start learning your own patterns. You get to start learning the language that your body has been trying to speak to you. And then you get to watch your own evolution. The end of the 6 weeks, my hope isn't that you know more facts. We have lots and lots of facts. I'm going to teach you facts. My hope is not to teach you more facts. My hope is that you actually trust yourself more. Options for pricing would be $444 paid in full or 2 payments of $222. With that said, this isn't 6 weeks about learning your body. It's 6 weeks of living in it. Your body's been writing you all of these letters for years. We just weren't taught how to read them. I'm going to pause. Questions, comments, emotional outbursts.
So I have a question, and this is going to
Yes,
sound
ma'am.
silly. Can you go
No.
all the way back to like the first slide?
Yes.
And there was a quote that you had on there that I wanted to write down because like I felt that. Like my whole
This one?
body got warm. Yes.
Okay.
Yes. I'm just gonna write that down if you don't mind.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, like my whole stomach just like I'm like, oh, I'm gonna throw up.
While you're doing that, I'm gonna see if I can. There's one person that was trying to get in and I couldn't get them in.
So Darcy, I know this is like your first time holding this. Do you think
Mhm.
this is something that you will then be doing again if it goes well?
That's a really interesting question. What I would actually like to do, what I have mapped out right now, is that there will be three separate phases. There is a lot of information, and I hesitate to give like all of the information in the very first phase because I think we just get addicted to information, and the information doesn't do anything if you're not working through like the embodiment of it. So the first phase that I'd like to do would to be to get into more of the physicality of like, where are the meridians? Where do they show up? How do they work? And then touch on some of the emotion, touch on some of the fascia stuff. The second phase would be to go deeper into all of the emotionality. The emotionality of everything gets to be a lot deeper. And then the third phase to really dive deep, a lot deeper into how the body battery works. We'll cover some of that in this phase, but how the electricity works, how the body battery works, how the electricity travels. There's some like science stuff to nerd out on there a little bit as well, but I don't want to like get too much into that in the very first phase. So will I host this one again? Very possibly. If there's a demand for it, I certainly will. But I also am really geeked out about these other two portions as well. Is that
Okay.
helpful?
Yeah.
Sweet.
And I'm also curious because a lot of my, like, what halts my growth is the intellectualizing literally everything. Like,
Yeah.
instead of feeling this, I want to understand it instead.
Yep.
So, what you're saying, it does sound like there's a lot of understanding that's going to take place in phase
Hmm.
one, but
Yeah.
is the working through it and really identifying those patterns more something you see in phase like 2 and 3?
I see it happening across all three phases. So, phase one, we're going to get into more of the physical pieces. So, I'll give you an example. There is a meridian that runs from the bottom of your foot up the backside of your leg, the inside of your thigh, disappears into your torso. I know Anita's familiar with it because we've talked about this in other classes that we've done. So I'll show you how to physically release that meridian and work through where your hot spots on it might be, if that is one that's showing up for you. And so it might be that you have physical release. Now, you could certainly also have emotional release on that meridian. But in phase two, what I'd like to do is go deeper into, instead of, I have this physical ache in my body, I maybe have this emotional ache. And where can I trace that to? And how do I release that? I find that when I release layers of fascia, depending on, physically what it is and emotionally what it is, sometimes I might go through a couple of layers and I'm like, good, I'm good. And then all of a sudden I hit like layer three and there's just this huge release of emotions. And so I want to be able to give enough space to do some of the physical release while also holding space for some of the deeper emotional release in phase two. Does that answer your question? I feel like I
Mhm.
kind of went sideways a little bit.
No, it's good.
Any other questions? Kaya, I know you just joined and we kind of got all the way to the end before I was able to get you that link. But what I'll do is I'm recording. So I will be sending the recording out, if not tonight, then tomorrow. So you'll have that as well. Cool. All right. Well, if you don't have any more questions tonight, I will get this recording posted up. Let me go ahead and actually stop the recording.